In ancient Greece, the shaping and arrangement of text, while primarily focused on the communication of ideas and stories, also incorporated artistic elements that can be seen as precursors to modern forms of text-based art, such as ASCII art. Although ancient Greek text wasn't typically used to create images or pictures in the same way ASCII art does, there were several instances in which the visual aspect of writing played a role in artistic or rhetorical expression. One of the most prominent examples of this form of play with text is the boustrophedon writing style. Boustrophedon, meaning "as the ox turns," was a method of writing in which the direction of the text alternated with each line. One line was written left to right, and the next right to left, resembling the path of an ox plowing a field. This format was used in early Greek inscriptions and was particularly common in the Archaic period, before the introduction of the more standard left-to-right writing style. While this was a functional adaptation for ease of reading and writing, it also introduced a form of visual rhythm that could be seen as an artistic play with the text's form. The alternating directions of the writing created a visual texture, and this style could be interpreted as an early form of shaping text to create something more than just written communication. The boustrophedon format, in some ways, resembles the creative use of characters in ASCII art, where the arrangement and positioning of symbols are critical to forming the desired image. Another example of ancient Greek manipulation of text for artistic purposes is the use of acrostics and visual poetry. Acrostics involve the arrangement of letters in such a way that a word or phrase can be read vertically, typically forming another word, name, or thematic element. This form of wordplay can be seen as an early attempt to use the visual arrangement of characters for artistic effect, somewhat akin to the creative manipulation of letters in ASCII art to form recognizable images. Ancient Greeks also experimented with epigrams, short, often witty or satirical poems, that were sometimes inscribed on monuments, tombstones, or public buildings. While these poems themselves were not text-based art in the way that ASCII art is, their presentation was often done in ways that emphasized the visual and spatial aspects of the text, such as arranging the lines or letters to fit the space available. Some epigrams used clever wordplay, and the way the text was presented could visually underscore the meaning of the poem, adding another layer to the message. Lastly, Greek inscriptions often made use of symmetry and spatial arrangement in the way text was laid out on monuments and temples. The spacing of letters and words, the alignment of text within the architecture, and the balance between text and decoration could create a harmonious visual effect that made the writing not just functional, but also aesthetically pleasing. This concept of arranging text in a visually engaging manner has parallels with ASCII art, where the arrangement of characters or symbols is just as important as the individual characters themselves. In these various ways, the ancient Greeks played with the visual arrangement of their text, experimenting with its shape, direction, and layout to enhance its meaning and aesthetic impact. While not ASCII art in the modern sense, their experimentation with text forms can be seen as a precursor to the creative use of characters and symbols that would later evolve into ASCII art. Both involve a focus on the placement and manipulation of basic elements, letters, symbols, or shapes, to convey meaning and create visual interest. The butterfly image created by Flora F. Stacy in the 1800s is a remarkable early example of text-based art that shares similarities with modern ASCII art. Flora F. Stacy was a Victorian artist who created what is often considered one of the first examples of text art in the form of a butterfly, crafted entirely from carefully arranged letters, numbers, and punctuation marks. Stacy's butterfly design was created using a technique known as letterpress printing, where characters were arranged in a specific pattern to form a picture. The butterfly image was made up of various characters from the alphabet, such as X, O, dash, and other symbols. This artwork was not a traditional drawing but rather an intricate arrangement of characters, similar to the approach used in ASCII art where characters are arranged on a grid to create an image. The butterfly image was part of a larger tradition in the Victorian era of using typewriters and printing presses for creative purposes, an early form of typographic art that involved manipulating text for visual effect. This form of expression was quite similar to how early ASCII artists would later experiment with the limitations of typewriters and keyboards to create art. Just as ASCII artists in the 1960s and beyond would manipulate characters to generate detailed or abstract representations, Flora F. Stacy used the limited resources available to her in the 1800s to explore the visual potential of text. Both types of art stem from the challenge of working with a limited set of symbols and pushing the boundaries of those symbols to convey something visually meaningful. Stacy's butterfly image can thus be seen as an early precursor to the practice of creating art from a system of characters. It reflects the same creative spirit that would later define ASCII art, where the arrangement of characters becomes not just a method of communication, but a medium for creating detailed, expressive images that carry both aesthetic and symbolic meaning. Typewriter art, also known as typewriter drawings or typewriter sketches, is a form of visual art created using the characters available on a typewriter. This style emerged during the early to mid-20th century, long before computers and ASCII art, and was a creative outlet for artists and enthusiasts who experimented with the limited set of symbols on typewriter keyboards. Typewriter art involves typing characters, letters, numbers, punctuation marks, and special symbols on a typewriter in such a way that they form recognizable pictures or abstract designs. The key challenge in typewriter art is working with a limited set of symbols and the lack of visual precision compared to drawing with traditional tools. As a result, many typewriter artists used the inherent features of the typewriter, like the spacing between characters and the mechanical limitation of the machine, to create both detailed and abstract representations. The technique became particularly popular in the mid-20th century, especially in the 1940s and 1950s, when artists and hobbyists embraced the typewriter as a creative tool. One of the most famous proponents of typewriter art was Norman Mailer, an American author, who reportedly used a typewriter to create visual works, though he was primarily known for his literary achievements. Other artists, such as Paul Smith and M.C. Escher, who experimented with geometric designs that could be mimicked using the typewriter, were also associated with early typewriter art, though their contributions were more experimental and less widespread. The art created with typewriters typically featured human figures, animals, or abstract designs, relying on the typewriter's mechanical limitations, such as the arrangement of characters on the page and the ability to strike multiple keys at once. Some typewriter artists focused on the use of capital and lowercase letters, punctuation marks, and other symbols to create intricate details in their work, while others embraced the pixelated, rough nature of the art, resulting in more abstract and geometric compositions. Typewriter art was often displayed in personal correspondence or letters, a form of expression that added personality and visual interest to the medium of written communication. The advent of computers and digital word processing in the 1980s led to the decline of typewriter art, but it still remains a nostalgic and interesting art form, occasionally revived by modern artists who seek to reintroduce this unique form of creative expression. While ASCII was originally created for practical, technical purposes, it wasn't long before early computer users began experimenting with the medium in creative ways. As graphical capabilities were limited or non-existent on early computers, users found creative ways to represent images using only text characters. These efforts gave birth to ASCII art, a form of digital art that utilized the characters of the ASCII set to create images, patterns, and illustrations. The earliest examples of ASCII art were relatively simple, basic shapes or patterns formed from characters like dashes, slashes, and vertical bars. One of the most recognizable pieces of ASCII art is the simple smiley face. First popularized by Scott Fahlman in 1982, this small sequence of characters became a universal symbol of happiness and emotion in digital communication. Fahlman, a computer scientist, suggested using smiley face to indicate jokes and sad face to denote serious messages on Carnegie Mellon University's message board. The simplicity and adaptability of the smiley face sparked a revolution in text-based communication. From emoticons to modern emojis, its influence is undeniable, as it paved the way for digital emotional expression. Even today, the smiley face continues to be a popular and enduring piece of ASCII art. As users grew more adept at manipulating the ASCII set, increasingly complex and detailed works of art began to emerge. These early ASCII artists saw potential in the raw simplicity of the medium, using combinations of symbols and characters to convey complex ideas and create detailed images. The rise of BBSs, bulletin board systems, in the 1980s played a pivotal role in the spread of ASCII art. BBSs were digital meeting places where users could share messages, files, and graphics, and they were instrumental in connecting like-minded individuals who had an interest in creative digital expression. These systems often had limited graphical capabilities, which meant that ASCII art became the go-to method for displaying images in this early online space. The hacker community, in particular, embraced ASCII art, using it to create digital representations of their usernames, logos, and messages. The minimalist nature of ASCII art lent itself to the ethos of the hacker community, where creativity often emerged from constraints and limitations. As the internet grew in the 1990s, so did the popularity of ASCII art. The rise of the World Wide Web brought with it new possibilities for online communication and expression, but the limitations of early web design, both in terms of bandwidth and graphical capabilities, meant that ASCII art remained a popular form of online decoration. During this time, ASCII art became an integral part of early website design. Many early websites incorporated ASCII art into their designs as a form of digital ornamentation. Some websites featured simple ASCII logos or welcome messages, while others used more elaborate designs. This trend was especially popular in the early days of internet culture, when websites were often basic and text-heavy. Moreover, the format was used in the creation of early emoticons, those text-based symbols that represent emotions in online communication. In a sense, emoticons are a direct descendant of ASCII art, as they use the same basic principles of text encoding to represent human expressions in a stylized, simplified manner. The smiley face remains the most iconic example of an emoticon that originated from ASCII art. Although the ASCII art scene is too wide to be covered in one video, let's go over some of the heavy hitters in the scene, who cemented their place in ASCII art history. The Amiga demo scene emerged in the 1980s as a creative outlet for programmers, artists, and musicians working on Commodore Amiga computers. The hardware capabilities of the Amiga, including its graphical and audio processing power, made it a favored platform for experimentation. Groups like Phenomena and Fairlight were at the forefront of this movement. They created intricate, text-based designs that were displayed as part of demos, small programs that combined visual effects, music, and storytelling. ASCII art became a signature of these demos, often used in title screens or credits to showcase group logos and individual artist tags. These groups not only elevated ASCII art as a medium but also connected it to broader digital culture. Their work set a high standard for technical and artistic creativity, influencing later scenes and groups. ASCII, ANSI Creators in Demand, founded in 1990, was one of the most influential ASCII art groups during the height of the BBS era. The group specialized in producing ANSI and ASCII art for bulletin board systems, creating logos, intros, and advertisements for these platforms. ASCII became known for their prolific output and commitment to technical excellence, releasing regular art packs that compiled their latest works. These art packs were eagerly anticipated by the community and served as benchmarks for artistic and technical innovation. ASCII artists experimented with shading, patterns, and layouts, pushing the boundaries of what could be achieved with text. The group's rivalry with ASCII, Insane Creators Enterprise, fostered a competitive atmosphere that drove rapid advancements in the quality and complexity of ASCII art. Founded in 1991, ASCII was another major player in the ASCII and ANSI art scene, rivaling ASCII in terms of output and influence. Known for their emphasis on quality and technical innovation, ASCII members were some of the first to experiment with shading techniques and intricate patterns in ASCII art, creating highly detailed logos and illustrations for the BBS community. and their work often showcased an advanced understanding of design principles. ASCII's art packs were seen as more curated, with a focus on delivering meticulously crafted pieces. This approach helped establish ASCII as a leader in the scene and cemented their reputation as innovators. The competition between ASCII and ASCII spurred a golden age of ASCII and ANSI art, with each group striving to outdo the other in creativity and technical sophistication. Razor 1911, originally a software cracking group, gained recognition in the ASCII art world for their iconic NFO files. These files, accompanying cracked software, contained essential information about the release alongside elaborate ASCII art. Razor 1911's art became synonymous with the underground software scene, blending rebellion, creativity, and technical skill. Razor 1911 was founded in 1985 in Norway, originally as a demo group focused on creating and sharing visually stunning software demonstrations, known as demos. These demos showcased programming talent, music, and art, with ASCII logos often incorporated as part of their identity. The group took its name from a brand of shaving razors and the year of their inception. By the late 1980s, Razor 1911 transitioned into software cracking, focusing on removing copy protections from games and software. They became part of the burgeoning Whereas scene, distributing cracked software for free. This was often accompanied by .NFO information files, which included details about the release and became a canvas for elaborate ASCII art. Razor 1911 was responsible for cracking and distributing thousands of software titles, from games to productivity tools. Their .NFO files are considered some of the finest examples of ASCII art in the Whereas scene, setting a high standard for other groups to follow. Razor 1911's work inspired the creation of other cracking and ASCII art groups, cementing their influence in digital subcultures. The group's ASCII art often featured intricate logos, symbols, and messages that reflected their ethos. Razor 1911's contributions helped establish ASCII art as an integral part of digital subcultures, showcasing its ability to serve as both a practical and artistic medium. As software piracy drew increasing scrutiny, Razor 1911 faced legal challenges. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, law enforcement cracked down on Whereas groups, leading to arrests and the temporary disbandment of some members. Despite these setbacks, Razor 1911 remains active in the scene, adapting to modern technologies and continuing their legacy. The Legion of Doom was a prominent hacker collective during the 1980s and 1990s, and ASCII art played a significant role in their culture. LOD members used ASCII to create striking visuals for their zines, technical documentation, and text files, merging artistic expression with their hacking prowess. LOD's art often carried a raw, gritty aesthetic that mirrored their rebellious identity. This style influenced the broader cyberpunk culture and solidified ASCII art as a means of expressing countercultural ideals. The Legion of Doom was a hacker collective formed in 1984, largely inspired by the earlier group Masters of Deception, MOD. LOD became one of the most influential hacking groups of the 1980s and 1990s, focusing on exploring telecommunication systems, security vulnerabilities, and hacking techniques. LOD members were known for their technical expertise and for publishing highly detailed zines, such as LOD technical journals. These publications served as guides to hacking, covering topics like phone phreaking, manipulating phone systems, network security, and system vulnerabilities. ASCII art often adorned the covers and headers of these journals, blending technical prowess with artistic expression. Their zines influenced a generation of hackers, fostering a community that valued innovation and skill over malicious intent. The group's use of ASCII art in their publications helped popularize the medium within hacker and cyberpunk circles. LOD was involved in high-profile conflicts with rival groups, most notably the Masters of Deception. These hacker wars often played out through technical challenges and public debates, solidifying LOD's reputation. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, law enforcement began targeting hacker groups, leading to several arrests and the eventual decline of LOD's public activities. With the decline of BBS systems in the late 1990s, ASCII art found a new home on the internet. Blocktronics became known for their collaborative projects, where multiple artists contributed to massive, coordinated pieces. These projects demonstrated the potential for ASCII art to evolve and remain relevant, even in an era dominated by high-resolution graphics and multimedia content. Blocktronics helped bridge the gap between the traditional BBS-era ASCII art and modern digital art movements, ensuring that the medium retained its cultural significance. The rise of ASCII memes in the 2000s represented a shift in how ASCII art was used and perceived. Platforms like 4chan popularized the use of simple ASCII drawings and characters for humor and social commentary. These memes, often spontaneous and created with minimal technical skill, contrasted with the elaborate works of earlier groups. Despite this, they played an important role in keeping ASCII art accessible and engaging for a new audience. ASCII memes became a form of internet shorthand, capable of conveying humor, emotion, and community identity in a compact format. While less formal and structured than the works of groups like ASCII or ASCII, ASCII memes demonstrated the medium's versatility and enduring appeal. Despite the popularity of ASCII, it had its limitations. The original ASCII character set, which used a 7-bit binary code, was designed primarily for English-language communication. It didn't include accented characters, special symbols, or non-Latin letters, features that were necessary as computer use expanded globally. This limitation led to the development of extended ASCII, a version of the standard that utilized an 8-bit code and allowed for an additional 128 characters. Extended ASCII systems began to appear in the 1980s, notably on IBM PCs and early versions of Microsoft Windows. While extended ASCII was more versatile than the original version, it still lacked the universality required for global use. The character sets varied between platforms, leading to compatibility issues between different systems. In response to these limitations, the Unicode standard was developed in the late 1980s and early 1990s. Unicode is a much broader character encoding system designed to represent every character from every language, as well as a vast array of symbols and characters used worldwide. It has largely replaced both ASCII and extended ASCII in modern computing, offering greater flexibility and support for international communication. Despite being eclipsed by more sophisticated graphics and visual media, ASCII art never fully disappeared. It experienced a resurgence in the early 2000s, driven by nostalgia for retro computing and the continued popularity of internet subcultures. Websites like Reddit, DeviantArt, and Tumblr became hubs for ASCII artists, who continue to explore the boundaries of this medium. Modern ASCII art often blends traditional techniques with newer technologies. Some artists use software tools that convert images into ASCII representations, while others continue to create their pieces by hand, carefully arranging characters to form recognizable shapes and patterns. The continued fascination with retro computing and early internet culture also plays a role in the revival of ASCII art. For many, creating or appreciating ASCII art is a way to connect with the early days of digital culture, a time when the internet was still new and uncharted territory. In addition to its resurgence in art circles, ASCII art continues to influence digital communication today. Emoticons, which evolved from early ASCII art, are an ever-present part of online communication. While emoticons are often simple symbols, they remain an extension of the creativity that was inherent in ASCII art, allowing users to convey complex emotions through a combination of basic text characters. ASCII's enduring legacy is evident not only in its impact on digital communication but also in the broader landscape of internet culture. The limitations of early technology led to inventive solutions, and ASCII played a central role in shaping both the functionality and aesthetic of early online communication. While the internet and computing technologies have evolved dramatically over the years, ASCII remains a link to the past, a reminder of the ingenuity that powered the digital age's earliest innovations. Today, we see ASCII's influence in everything from email signatures to retro-inspired designs, video game aesthetics, and even social media posts. The simplicity of ASCII continues to resonate in a world that increasingly prioritizes user-generated content, creativity, and accessibility. Its history is not only a story of technical innovation but also of artistic expression in the face of limitations, showing us how, even in the earliest days of computing, the digital world was a place for both creativity and communication. From its technical roots in character encoding to its cultural prominence as a medium for digital art, ASCII and ASCII art have had a profound impact on the development of digital communication. The evolution of the Internet, the proliferation of global communication, and the rise of creative digital expression all owe something to the simple, efficient standard that ASCII set in place. Though the technology has advanced, and new standards have emerged, ASCII's influence is still felt today in the emoticons we use, the minimalist designs that pervade retro and pixel art, and the enduring tradition of digital creativity. Whether as a technical tool, a form of artistic expression, or a way of communicating in a text-based world, ASCII's legacy endures, offering a lasting connection to the early days of the Internet and the innovation that powered it. In the world of software development, the role of ASCII is still significant. Many programming languages, especially those developed in the earlier decades of computing, rely on ASCII characters to define syntax. Keywords, operators, and identifiers in languages like C, C++, Python, and Java are all based on ASCII characters. Without ASCII, the ability to write and read code in a standardized manner would have been far more complicated. Programming itself is deeply intertwined with the principles of text encoding. For instance, when developers write code, it's typically done using a basic set of ASCII characters, especially in the context of debugging or reading raw data. Since computers understand and manipulate data in binary form, the correspondence between binary code and ASCII allows programmers to directly manipulate how text appears in memory, creating a bridge between human-readable and machine-readable data. ASCII continues to play a key role in the storage and transfer of data. The binary representation of ASCII characters makes it extremely efficient for storing text in memory. In fact, many text editors, databases, and file formats, especially those concerned with plain text, still rely on ASCII-encoded files. For example, the CSV, comma-separated values, format, used extensively in data management and exchange, is based on ASCII encoding. Moreover, ASCII characters are lightweight in terms of storage space. Each character requires only 1 byte of memory, 7 bits, to be precise, though most modern systems store it as an 8-bit byte. This efficiency is particularly important in early computing systems, where storage was limited and expensive. The simplicity of ASCII made it ideal for systems with constrained resources, allowing for the efficient transmission and storage of text-based information. Networking protocols are another area where ASCII remains influential. In early systems, protocols like Telnet and FTP, File Transfer Protocol, used ASCII for communication, enabling users to interact with remote systems through simple text-based commands. These protocols, though largely replaced or augmented by more advanced methods, were fundamental in laying the groundwork for modern networking standards. The Transmission Control Protocol, TCP, and the Hypertext Transfer Protocol, HTTP, which form the backbone of the modern Internet, still allow for ASCII characters in certain contexts. HTTP headers, for example, use ASCII encoding, allowing for the seamless transmission of metadata between web browsers and servers. In fact, the entire URL, Uniform Resource Locator, system relies heavily on ASCII characters, ensuring consistency across the web. Additionally, the text-based nature of many early protocols meant that ASCII was a perfect fit for these systems. The lightweight, machine-readable format allowed computers to exchange vast amounts of information quickly and reliably, even when bandwidth was limited. While ASCII art might seem like an outdated relic in the era of high-definition graphics and 3D rendering, it remains alive and well within various online subcultures. In many ways, ASCII art has taken on the role of digital folk art, simple, accessible, and created by everyday users rather than professional artists. This form of art is deeply democratic. It requires no special tools or expensive materials, just a basic text editor and a bit of creativity. If you know any interesting facts about the ASCII art scene, or ASCII in general, feel free to let us know in the comments. If you learned something new, please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching Mysterious Nuggets.